Welcome back from the commercial break. We continue to inspire and ensure that you outside there and ourselves, none of us expire. And we bring our topic of discussion as we go for round 3 with our Honorable Member of Parliament, that is our dear guest tonight. And our analysis continues to focus on the science and technology that Ugandans need for socio-economic welfare. When I talk about socio-economic welfare subject, there are some of the case studies or references that will be interested in our talk show before we end this evening. And it becomes a bit not for lamentation but a concern. While Uganda indeed appreciates the role of science and technology, but a lot is desirable to be done. We have unsolved problems, and we refer, for instance, what is happening in Karamoja. And this is a land or a region, a sub-region that is known to be enriched with minerals, endowed with minerals, mineral resource, and also the beauty of the land over there. Some of you who have been seeing the kind of photographs of those who are dying of hunger, you cannot believe, I'm being told by the Honorable Member of Parliament here, you cannot believe when you go there, you may desire to buy land there. So having land and also being, famous in pastoralism, which should be referred as dairy farming, because we are in a transformation era, not this kind of the fight. I believe the NRM government is expected to be doing much. And we are pleased to say that at least it's not an issue of opposition to say maybe the opposition is the one which is failing the projects in Karamoja. And I would like to emphasize on this. At a certain point, even the first lady of this country was the minister of Karamoja. We are not saying that you've done nothing, but we still believe the Karamoja sub-region to be helped by policymakers and partners to explore their potential seems to be lacking. It's not a good story for us, but we want to find a solution. While here in this city, we also, we are being challenged, some of us emotionally, some of the things that none of us could desire to see. When you see the street children and they say, who are these? The trademark, they say Karamoja. None of us, we are not dealing with the issue of tribal clan and so forth. These are Ugandans. And I feel it. Every other time it is hitting my emotion. And we're asking ourselves, in the midst of a situation when we are supposed to use all available opportunities and ways to solve these problems, there is a problem at hand. After that, Honorable, we also desire to hear your analytical, economic analytical point of view, input into this, looking at while all these challenges are happening, but we are still having over expenditure, exorbitant expenditure, excessive expenditure on public administration. You pass the budget, we are aware of that. And also, on security budget, which is good for us, we don't want to undermine the state of the country, but we seem to be spending much on that. And when we look at this area which can change this country, even if we committed ourselves, the other time there's a country who said they wanted to magufarize. Maybe when I don't know whom will give the name tag of also making such a kind of a revolution for our economic transformation. Honorable, please, it's a pleasure once again to welcome you to give us input in these areas.
Yeah, I equally sympathize with what the people of Karamoja are going through. This is just not a problem peculiar to Karamoja. In fact, if we do not pay attention and get alerted, there's going to be a big problem in this country. There's a serious crop failure across the country as a result of the drought. And of course, Karamoja's has been exacerbated by some underlying problems of insecurity. And of course, Karamoja is one area which is being used to attract donor funding. It looks like that area has just been condemned to poverty. Sometimes I keep asking myself, because for all these years, how can you keep a society, in situations like that? And yet they are rich, as you've rightly observed, in mineral resources. the people of Karamoja are hardworking. The people of Karamoja love animals. That must tell any planner that these are the areas to develop in Karamoja. Even if we say, okay, Karamoja is a dry land, we have seen places like Dubai being transformed into deserts. We have seen even in Israel, they have transformed deserts into agricultural land. How has that been done? Many times we say we go and do benchmarking. How are these benchmarks helping our people? If in this era you still have people dying of hunger, you still have situations where the animals, cannot be bred in a more scientific or using technology to be able to improve their value. And right now, Karamoja should be exporting cows and animal products to foreign countries. The economy should have been very powerful. The minerals should have been processed in Karamoja, such that jobs are created for those people, and some who want to move away from animal keeping can move into other sectors of the economy. It all goes back into our prioritization. How are we making use of our resources? How are we deploying our resources? If all our money goes into maybe classified expenditure or for buying weapons of war, that means we will be supporting the innovation and science and technology of those countries where we're importing these things from. And yet we could translate these resources into investment in our people. We could translate these resources into, as you said, human capital development for our own good. And it's from those results of the investment that we can then be able to invest in other sectors of the economy. So I go into saying that how we use our money has not been right. Surprisingly, NRM has this overwhelming majority in parliament, and the proposals of the executive always get supported. But these proposals many times do not factor in things like this that would work for the ordinary person. And I think that's where we go wrong. Two, you talked of the exorbitant cost of public administration. A lot of administrative units have been created largely for
the need for supporting science.
Of course.
Yes.
So that means you are going to spend the money for capital development keeps reducing money you would have deployed in technology for maybe setting factories, for creating schools that skill people, for doing all sorts of capital development dwindles. You see, and these are all decisions that get proposed by the executive and they pass through the parliament. Do they work for the ordinary people? No. And that's how the money for science and technology actually dwindles. And the result is we can't be able to move. Right now there's now dispute. I don't know if I should call it dispute, disagreement between World Bank and the government of and the president on whether we are in the middle income or not. And if you look at the faces of ordinary people, this middle income status is not reflected. Of course, you just talked of street kids on streets of Kampala.
The number of thousands.
We have areas that provide, countries that provide safety nets for such vulnerable groups, and this is not happening in our own country.
There are over almost like now in thousands, beyond hundreds, and they are being policed by the traffic is there, and the KCCA, which is chasing away the workers who are trying to sell what can enable them. The KCCA is there, the chief executive director is there. I will, just the time I'm having an opportunity to be here in this such a kind of talk show to moderate and host, it's something I will continue to appeal. I don't know the hidden agenda. Please, those who are in the government authority, you'll excuse me for that. Why, in amidst all this, it happens, and the government I'm talking of, you are who do law enforcement, the police, you're there, the KCC is there, the Kampala City Council Authority, the Minister of Children, and I think there's that ministry, right? The Ministry of...
yeah, because there's a ministry that deals with issues of children.
With issues of children. And this is happening here. And
youth.
And initially, this is, again, we are dealing with the socio-economic welfare of the people. What's that cannot be done? And when we are talking about the science and technology, is it difficult to create an environment, that can be able to improve the welfare of these people? Is it difficult, as you said it, and we say it again, having Karamoja that is very popular in dairy farming? I'm trying to graduate them. They normally do pastoralism, and where we do export this improved, value added kind of packed beef, right? Which is being sold in other countries. Couldn't this be done there?
I think it can be done. I usually hear the president say the people of Ankole used to move room like the Karamojong. Yes. But their lives were transformed. How was it done? Mm-hmm. How was it done? I'm sure there are success stories there. We have people who are now settled. They are doing dairy farming. They are rearing, bulls. They are breeding bulls for meat.
Yes.
All this has been done.
They're exporting
exactly.
meat to Sudan.
So why is it that it can be done in some parts and it cannot be done for Karamoja? So some of our problems are really structural.
They are structural.
Yeah, they are structural by design. Mm. So how we design the economy, the policies to work for different people in this country is what keeps them where they are. Mm. You find a region like West Nile, which has potential to do many things, is limited by lack of power. Since we were born. Some of us did not have the opportunity we've been condemned to energy poverty until recently. And when some power was brought, even when it is not enough for industrialization, you would see what the ordinary people can be able to achieve. That tells you the government always has a catalytic role in creating an enabling environment to address and to promote science and development. So it goes back to government that if you want to tap into the potential of human beings, you must be able to create for them the right environment. And so that applies to science and technologies. You need an enabling environment for science and technology to thrive. We are just looking at the oil, which is now excited everybody. So if you ask how much of Ugandan technology and innovation will be deployed in this industry, you will probably find little. And it may go into the issues of local content. We are spending a lot of money buying military equipment, buying different things. All these things are imported. You go into importing toothpicks. So what kind of...
We still import toothpicks.
So when we talk about science and technology, where is the practicality of the application of this? People who promote these things and through action, not just through lip service, are able to now create these basics in the economy. They manufacture, they promote these basic things. I'm sure a lot of technology is available, and the only thing is we are not bringing this technology in to support our own growth. And usually with technology, you just need to have the frameworks people can build on. You see? There must be the starting point. That's why countries like China, they get the basics and build on. They get the intellectual property rights. They pick what works and what doesn't work for their people. So we should broadly look at these issues and see where the opportunity cost is. Those that do not work for us, we would probably keep them aside.
Yes.
And those that work to fix our country's problems, we bring them on board. Already you see in entities like URA, the deployment of technologies is helping improve tax collection, and that is good for domestic resource mobilization.
You were talking about the e-governance, science and technology and the e-governance, and we were dealing with, you made it as a recommendation. It's already in existence, but it's not yet in a reality, because we still experience a situation where the existence and the recruitment of the more human capital are to first make travel here and there, doing things manually. It's still dominating. It's still dominating. And one of the issues at hand, which I think maybe very soon we need to consider on parliamentary floor, we believe to be having 148 districts as a way of delivering service to the people. It looks not to be adding up. The 148, the scattering, the subdivision of these, those which were counties, and they become districts, and it's normally claimed to be a way of extending or delivering services nearer, closer to the people. And we do believe the kind of transformation we are talking about, this kind of administration, the style of administration, may not necessarily need to first subdivide, scatter districts, sub-areas, small areas into districts. In the event of this, the reason why I bring this subject matter, it has created an avenue of recruiting many, workers for purpose of filling these administrative posts and political posts. Increased many members of parliament. Of course, that has happened automatically, which I don't blame any member of parliament for that. And again, RDCs. You find that every district you're having two RDCs who goes with alongside of them with cars. And then their salary, then again, because there's a need to balance, presidential advisors, they increase, because we would like to address the problems we face.
And that's where the West is.
We would like to address the problem of this country, whether maybe you like it or not, this is the reality. And we are analyzing economic policies. So now when you look at that, then when they're looking at ambassadors, they tend to balance from these districts how many ambassadors, and they open maybe more other embassies, so that they can balance each district almost to get an ambassador. And also it takes us to presidential advisors. So by the time we are trying to fill it up, and the money we are tending to borrow from abroad to come and do part of what is our aspiration tonight of science and technology, honorable, it seems to be becoming every that time a hurdle and difficult. Yet our eyes are on you. You are policy makers, and I know, of course, you said it, you don't have the numbers, but the voice of reason should continue to prevail. I would like to hear your commentary or your analytical opinion over that, but it's a concern.
Yeah, it's a genuine concern that there's a lot of waste in the economy, and coupled with the corruption and all that, you have a situation where resources are not enough to deliver services to the ordinary people. And it is expected science and technology would be able to help with things like this. I want to say, all these you've highlighted, when one wants to understand how much they contribute to the GDP, it's sometimes zero, because no value is being created through these actions. Even if you have many of these people deployed, they may not necessarily create any value, because they are not producing something useful. So how do we expect science to reduce the public waste? We have entities that have managed to digitize their systems, because the digital economy requires that there must be efficiency.
Digital economy, that's a strong point.
There must be resource optimization. you must minimize waste. The interface between people, people to people, person to person contact is minimized. So in all that, you can deal with issues of corruption, which is very, very rampant in our country. And through applications that are available, you can be able to solve a number of problems. You can deal with corruption. I've seen this in processing of licenses, maybe in KCCA, in NFA, tax collections in URA. Judiciary now has court filing applications.
The court filing guy.
So these are all good developments that can ensure we reduce cost of public administration.
Thank you.
But most importantly is Ugandans should be able to input into this. If we are still depending on systems that are developed from outside, it means the issue of local content is not being addressed. We will not be able to build the capacities of our local entities, and this will still be like the economic hemorrhage that the president often talks about.
We'll be going into that in the last session and dealing with the legal framework which you are part of, especially in the registration.
But for e-governance, I would want to see how science and technology has been integrated into Paris Development Model.
Okay, I will bring that in the second session.
And the funding mechanisms, because I seem not to see this, and this is because this was a top-down kind of proposal.
Thank you, Honorable. We'll deal on that as you reminded me, and on that last part, stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. It is a great talk show of analysis on economic policies. See you in the next hour.